Reason Podcast does not believe in curses or hexes and is unconcerned with what offends you. We do not believe that words have the power to compel spirits or demons to affect your life in any way. If you do, well, there is a reason why the explicit tag is there.
Listening to Reason Podcast. Reason. To think, understand, and form judgments by a process of logic.
Hello, and welcome to Reason. Today is Sunday, January 27th, and this very special episode is entitled, Today, I Am Much Older. Paul Can't Say Perkinji, and David found Jesus. Again. And then lost him. Jesus is apparently sneaky that way. I'm Joshua Billingsley, along with Paul Whitmire.
How you doing?
And David Ward.
Good evening.
And this podcast is coming to you live from sunny Buffalo, New York. Reason Podcast is a weekly discussion of events, both current and historical, from a skeptical, a rational, and a non-theological perspective. Reason Podcast is brought to you by The Offensive Atheist and the atheist community of Buffalo and Western New York. For further information, please visit our blog and website at wnyatheist.org or email us at reason@wnyatheist.org.
Okay, so we have as Josh mentioned, a very special episode, hopefully coming to you today if we can get all the technical crap taken care of, like phones and things like that. I mean, we used to have like the telegraph and things like that. That was good. So, but we have special guests on today. We're going to get to Tyler Measom in just a moment. Tyler, along with his partner Justin Weinstein, is one of the producers and directors, as far as I understand, of a movie, a documentary called James Randi, An Honest Liar. So we're going to spend some time chatting with him today, and hopefully everyone knows who James Randi is. If not, you're probably going to find out. So let's go, and hopefully this will work, and let's see if we have a person.
Technology? Working?
Hello?
Hello?
Tyler?
Yes, this is Tyler.
Fantastic. Technology has not failed us yet again. This is Joshua. How you doing?
Good, Joshua. Thank you for having me on the show.
Thanks for coming on. This is Paul Whitmire, by the way. We also have David with us here.
Hi.
So we want to kind of jump right into things here. So you have basically everyone on Facebook that we're friends with has sent us the link over and over again about the Kickstarter campaign. And everyone, who are friends of ours and who listen to the show, big fans of James Randi. So we wanted to start off just kind of asking you how your production company kind of got involved in this whole thing, where the idea came from, things like that.
Well, yeah, first off, I mean, it's amazing how many people know and love James Randi. And to be making a movie of him and his life is a dream for both Justin and I. Now, I had made a film previously called Sons of Perdition. Mm-hmm. It's a documentary that follows three boys who were kicked out of their Mormon community, their polygamist community, and it did very well. It played all over the world. Oprah bought it, and it kind of, when you make documentaries, you do it as a labor of love. I mean, you do it because you have a story you want to tell. You do it because these topics are important to you, and that topic, as I had left the Mormon faith.
An ex-Mormon.
Came to a realization. Yes, a Mormon.
Fantastic.
A former Mormon is what it is. That kind of, and as I had left and really understood and kind of got a little bit jaded about being disillusioned and lied to for so long. Mm-hmm. And so in wanting to make my next film, I kind of wanted to keep that evangelicalism with me, that march to tell the truth.
Right.
And no one has done a march to tell the truth, a mission, if you will, more so than James the Amazing Randi.
Well,
I contacted the JREV and told them my intentions to make a documentary about him, and they said, "Oh yeah, we get a lot of people wanting to make films about James Randi, and who wouldn't?"
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then of course, and they said the majority of them aren't, professionals. He said, but they watched the film. Mm-hmm. They watched Sons of Perdition and said, yes, we want you to do it.
Well,
so go ahead.
I was just going to say, from what I've seen, I mean, I follow James Randi's page on Facebook, and he's been promoting the Kickstarter campaign himself. So it seems like they're definitely behind the whole project, and you had their cooperation since day one in this whole deal.
Yeah, they really. Well, it took them about 4 months to get back to me, and being the keepers of James Randi and knowing that a lot of people want to kind of take him on, they were naturally leery.
Well, yeah.
Now, Randi, when I met him, I sat down with him, and we went to lunch. I flew down to Florida. He didn't know me. I didn't know him. He'd seen my film. And we go to lunch. He takes me to IKEA, of all places, for lunch.
IKEA, the furniture store?
And, yeah, IKEA, the furniture store. He likes the meatballs there, I guess.
All right.
And
Swedish meatballs.
He goes, I will do this documentary under one condition, he said. Warts and all. He said, I want you to, tell my life as it is and as it was, which, as a filmmaker, that's exactly what you want to hear. And honestly, he's been nothing but honest and forthright and has opened his doors and his past and his entire life, both past and current, to us.
Well, yeah, it's good to have, that kind of full access.
Well, it seems like he would be the kind of person, too, because he seems to want things warts and all. He wants the truth, not just the magic show, not just the glossed over version, the nitty-gritty, the dirty, so to speak, the rough and unpleasant sometimes.
Yeah, but, the interesting thing is this is Randi's dichotomy, and the difficulty is that when you, as an individual, set yourself up and say you are the beacon of truth, you open yourself up to a lot of scrutiny, and so he has that. He's had that his whole life, he's fought it well and he's maintained it pretty well. But it does make for an interesting story. That's for damn sure. Well, can I say damn?
You can say whatever the fuck you want.
Any fucking thing you want. Yeah, we have an explicit thing at the beginning just because we got tired of not saying fuck.
Yeah. After about 6 or 7 months, it's just been, fuck it, I'm saying fuck. So
we changed it. We gave up on that.
But although I doubt that most of our listeners are not going to know who James Randi is, would you mind just kind of going through maybe just a brief history to fill any of the stragglers in who aren't doing what they're supposed to be doing and actually going out and finding skeptical things?
Yeah, of course. Well, a lot of times we get asked, well, what are you working on? And what film are you working on? And I say, it's called An Honest Liar. And so we have to give the elevator pitch of who James Randi is. And it's surprising. A lot of people don't know who James Randi is. And a lot of people who do know everything about it. So when they say, oh, I know James Randi, I know everything. He's amazing. He's wonderful. He's a great guy. And a lot of people say, oh, I don't know who that is, especially the younger generation.
Yeah.
And my favorite thing to say is, well, you will. Hopefully you will. But, James Randi was a world-famous magician. In the 40s and 50s, he became this almost Superman, if you will, who would escape from jail cells and handcuffs and buried under the ice, and he would hang over straitjackets over Niagara Falls. So he became this amazing, to use that word, magician and escape artist. And at one point, he kind of grew tired of seeing people using those same tricks of magic, not for entertainment, as he was doing, but for deception.
Right.
Charlatans, faith healers, spoon benders, channelers, things of that nature. So he made it his life's mission to go after these people. And he would go after them not only just to say they were wrong, but to really do these elaborate schemes, if you will, to prove conclusively that they were wrong. And he did it in the way that a magician could do it.
Yeah, I know James Randi, it seems like his entire, at least skeptical career was always the one advocating that someone with his expertise in his area should be the one to be analyzing these claims of bullshit that exist out there.
Yeah, he put forth, I believe, the principle that it should be a magician and not a scientist evaluating these claims, because scientists believe the evidence, whereas magicians always doubt it.
Well, it's interesting because it takes a con man to see a con man.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And Randi is that type. So whereas a scientist can see these things and they think it is a magic, or they think it is psychic ability, Randi sees right through it. He knows what it is that he knows what it is that they're doing, because that's what he does as well.
Yeah, and I fell into learning about who James Randi was, I'd say probably, a good 7-8 years ago, just looking up random stuff on YouTube, of which there's plenty of videos of Randi on the Tonight Show. There's, plenty of footage of him. He had a skeptical show for a while, I know, which was a good time, but it was kind of my first introduction into that whole world of debunking and skepticism that he's become known and famous for. And it was quite eye-opening and enlightening to learn all that stuff, and to learn someone was out there trying to argue for reason and say that all of these claims are just complete bunk and aren't true, that people have magical powers and so on.
Well, the first thing I remember learning about James Randi was the whole Project Alpha thing, and that I was flabbergasted with the brilliance. So,
Project Alpha is one of my favorite instances, and I loved when I first heard about Project Alpha. That's when I knew what a cinematic story it was.
Yeah,
and as we dig farther into it, the information that I have found and the footage that we have and the photos and the stories that we've been told, you wouldn't believe what went on. You wouldn't believe. It was like cops and robbers chase. It was this secret caper breaking into places, and Randi in disguises, and these guys, breaking into the lab and bending spoons and watches and clocks, and and so as a storyteller, we hear those things and go, oh my God, what kind of stories can we tell? What kind of in-depth stories can we make from this tale?
Well, I think even though many people are familiar with James Randi, maybe less familiar with Project Alpha. So could you kind of take us through step by step, like what was Project Alpha and what happened?
Well, Project Alpha was, again, this is kind of interesting because we do have to pitch these stories to people who don't know anything about it. Mm-hmm. You guys are probably more in the know than most, especially your listeners. But Project Alpha there was a well-funded university research team in the 80s. And they were given a large amount of money from James McDonald, the airline magnate. And they were trying to find out if paranormal studies existed. And James McDonald did this essentially because he hoped to contact dead test pilots to find out what had gone wrong with the airplanes.
This much I did not know.
Yeah, I didn't know that either. Yeah. That's a good plan, I guess.
He dumped $500,000 into it, and he had this guy, Peter Phillips, and Peter Phillips was a professor, and he looked just like a professor, big beard, scraggly, gray hair. And they put out this large casting call, if you will, over the nation, and they said, we're looking for young psychics. And they found 2 young psychics. They found these 2 psychics. One was in Milwaukee and one was in New Jersey. Mm-hmm. And they brought these 2 psychics in, and over the course of 4 years, they tested these 2. One was 19, one was 20. And they tested them conclusively through laboratories. They did all kinds of, tests, all kinds of bending spoons and breaking into clocks and breaking into test tubes and adjusting cameras. Well, at the end of 4 years, they got up in a press conference and said, yes, paranormal activity conclusively exists, and these 2 young men have it.
Ah, silly scientists.
And then the 2 young psychics got up and said, you know how we did it? We cheated. And up steps James Randi. Mm-hmm. And essentially what happened is that James Randi had coached these 2 young magicians over 4 years to fool these paranormal researchers.
Yeah, and spend like $1 million doing it. So
yeah.
Well, I get.
So, but behind that is Randi, wearing disguises to go to these paranormal camps.
Oh, really?
And the interesting thing is, this is what Randi did early in the thing. He contacted this university, and he said, "Look, I'd like to offer my help. I'll do it for free. I'll do this for free, just because you need a magician in there." And they said, "Oh yeah, silly magician, you go ahead and pull a rabbit out of your hat. We don't need your help."
Right? No.
So Randi kind of did this whole, "Oh yeah, I'll show you what kind of help you need," and and perpetrated this scheme over the course of 4 years.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned that he was putting on disguises and everything like that, because we actually saw James Randi at the Reason rally that happened in Washington D.C. Last March, and Josh and I both kind of noted, wow, he is a very short man.
Yeah, we knew he was short, but we were surprised, and we wondered about, because I knew that he had done things in disguises, and I'd wondered how he was able to pull it off and not get caught. It seems, the whole thing seems, you'll pardon me, almost magical.
Yeah.
Well, but the thing about James Randi is he does these things thinking ahead 5 steps.
Yeah, like a magician.
He is a master deceiver, like a magician. So he and the more we read, the more we really get into the letters being sent back and forth, is that Randi would set up. He would set something up by sending a letter well in advance, knowing that it was going to happen. And he would think 4 or 5 steps ahead of everybody. And to watch him work behind the scenes, to see that magic trick being pulled out and played out is just phenomenal. So that's part of what we're going to do with this film. And not just with the Alpha Project, with Popoff and with the Carlos hoax.
Yuri Geller, I assume.
And Yuri Geller, who has been his arch nemesis his entire existence. His whole life is this guy that fought each other tooth and nail, back and forth. These two, battling, if you will. And Geller kind of almost never able to really, or Randi really never able to conclusively prove that Geller was cheating. But also the two of them. Look, if it wasn't for Geller, Randi probably wouldn't have been as popular as he was in the 70s.
Well, everybody needs an arch nemesis.
Randi, yeah. So yeah, you're only as strong. As a superhero, you're only as strong as your best arch nemesis.
That's why I fight David and not Josh.
Oh. Well, it also helps with storytelling. I mean, for your movie, I'm sure it was handy to actually have an arch nemesis, someone to go up against, and that evolves over time. But Geller had to be fantastic. I mean, to you as a filmmaker, additionally to Randi as a magician.
And just so, I was just going to say, just real quickly so everyone knows, Yuri Geller was famous, I think, back in the 70s and 80s for doing the incredibly useless trick of bending spoons.
Unless you needed a bent spoon.
That's true.
With his mind.
Well, yes. And his hands.
Yes. No, he was famous for doing it with his mind. He was infamous for doing it with his hands.
Well, yeah.
And Geller was, you have to give credit where credit is due. And Geller was good at what he did. He knew how to entertain a crowd. He still does. He knows how to take advantage of a situation. He'd do certain things like Big Ben would stop. There was an incident where Big Ben, the clock in London, just stopped all of a sudden. And so the next day, what happened? He came out in the press and said, "I concentrated really hard and made it stop."
See that? I did that.
I did that. Didn't warn you ahead of time. I thought I'd spring it on you.
There was an incident where there was a World Cup soccer match, and right before a penalty kick, the ball suddenly moved. It just moved a little bit, and the guy missed the kick. So what happened the next day? Geller got up in the news and said, "I did that. I concentrated really, really hard." So, a man who took advantage of the situation. Now, but Randi, it was very interesting because, looking at all of these television shows of Randi, he was on so many shows in the 70s and 80s. He was on every show.
Yeah.
And they'd always start out with saying, it would be the Oprah show, or it would be Regis and Kelly, or it would be The View, or any of these shows. And they'd say, last week we had Yuri Geller on the show. This week we have James Randi.
Mm-hmm.
So it was, and if you look at Randy's letters, and forgive me if I just go on a rant, but it's so easy to just talk about James Randi. He would, you look at these letters from his life, and trust me, I've gone through he would keep these innate records. He has records of everything, and every single letter he wrote and received, he kept and filed. And you'd see him write to That's Incredible. And the day after a show would air, they'd air a show on James Heydrich, the telepath. Mm-hmm. And the day after, he'd write him a letter and say, this is bunk, this guy is doing this as a magic trick, and I will be on the show. I should be on the show to tell you how. He'd do that with every single show. He'd do that show after show. Mm-hmm. So if there's anything Randi is, he's a brilliant magician, he's a brilliant skeptic, but he's a hell of a good promoter. He would not wait for these television shows to call him. He would actively go after and say, I know how it's being done. I think we should do a show on it.
And it seemed to work out for him. I know.
Well, he could always pull off the same trick. I mean, if he failed, that'd be one thing. But I mean, the man has succeeded in everything I've seen at showing how the tricks were done.
Yeah.
And that's I mean, it's results. Results are what count.
I certainly have never seen him stumped in any footage. Did
well, the thing is, though, is he's still beholden to the magician's code. So, where it would be very easy for him to just say, and there's few times when he has actually just said, this is how Uri Geller did it. This is what he did. Mm-hmm. But most of the time, you just say it's tricks. It's just tricks. And rather than saying it was wrong, he would do it. And he'd say, oh, you think that spoon bending is psychic powers? And then he'd bend a spoon. And they'd ask, how did you do that? How did you do that? And he'd say, I can't really tell you. Suffice to say that it's simply magic tricks. It's illusion. It's trickery.
Mm-hmm. Magic, not superpowers magic. Magic like tricking people.
Yes.
So
conjuring, as he calls it.
Since you did sit down with Randi, I mean, I wonder if you ever got involved in any sort of discussion about whether or not he's ever been stumped himself, or if he mentioned anything like that.
There's some secrets we'll keep for the film.
All right. That's perfectly reasonable.
Yeah, I'm trying to get a $750 out of you at the movie flex. There's some secrets we'll keep, but by and large, if it's a trick, he sees right through it, and he sees it very quickly. There's some times where it takes a little bit of work. It takes a couple of days before he breaks it down. But the only time I've ever seen him stumped is firewalking. That's the only time through archival footage that I've seen him say, I don't know. People are genuinely walking on hot coals. I don't know. So, but that's it.
Fantastic. The thing that really gets me about Randi is the confidence. It is the ability to see through it and see through it quickly. And anybody out there can go look at some of the clips on YouTube. They're fantastic. And if they actually, go see the movie, I bet there's a ton more. Actually, let me ask you, how much more of the trickery and the debunking do you guys have in the movie? Because that stuff, I absolutely love it.
It's so much fun to watch. It's one of my favorites is the James Heydrich, the guy who could move the telephone book. And
yeah.
Probably one of and you watch that and it's inspiring. You go, oh my God, he just moved that telephone book. It's pretty remarkable. But Randi, in one swift motion, laid down some styrofoam peanuts and said, now do it. Completely took something that was mysticizing and just made it pedestrian and silly. And we've actually talked to James Heydrich.
Oh, did you?
We got his side of the story.
Wonderful.
So there are a lot of those debunkings that he's done. Now, some of my favorite are the ones that you guys don't know about, and even his biggest fans don't know because they're things he did early in his career. There's a story that we will tell about his first debunking as a young boy, debunking a street preacher, if you will, in Canada that ended up getting him arrested.
Really?
One story about how he kind of taught a fraudulent radio station a lesson by claiming $1,000 from them in a contest. It's a remarkable story.
Well, that's a good way to fund your projects early on. If you have the ability to be a deceiver and a liar and a magician, just fool the radio stations, get all the prize money.
You know what's amazing though is that in interviewing James Heydrich, this man who by and large was a magician and had really damn good tricks, really great tricks, but at one point he could have gone and become a magician, or he could have become, a charlatan. And it's that edge, that forked edge. At one point early in Randy's career, somebody came up to him, and he was doing a mentalist show. Mm-hmm. And somebody came up to him and said, you have mental powers. He goes, no, I don't. I really don't. And they said, yes, you do. And he couldn't convince them otherwise. And they said, listen, I will pay you a large sum of money every single week to pick the winning horses for me.
Okay.
And Randy toyed with it. He said that's a substantial amount of money, and I could pick them and probably get a few right and, get a few wrong. But instead, he couldn't do it.
Yeah,
there's a story he tells about a woman who said, please come and bless my child. Save my child who has leukemia. You have special powers. I'll pay you. So, there's that edge where magicians can go one way or the other.
Yeah. It always amazes me that so many people seem to, even like with the Alpha Kids and the Alpha Project and James Randi as well as a bunch of other different mentalists and magicians that come out and say, no, I'm doing tricks. I don't have special powers. And the answer, like, almost half the time seems to be, oh, yes, you do.
We know you can't admit it, but yeah, you do.
Right. And, and many of these magicians or mentalists could, without question, make a whole lot more money if they simply pretended to be a Sylvia Brown or, a John Edwards. And frankly, much better if you see a magician or a mentalist like Banachek, Mike Edwards, or Banachek, who was part of Project Alpha. He's remarkable. I'm sorry, he kicks the shit out of Sylvia Brown any day, and makes a tenth of the money that crazy woman makes.
Well, it's hard not to rip people off. That really is where the money is ripping people off.
Yeah, having morals is a bitch.
It really is. But. So, how long did you guys actually work on this film? I mean, this is a huge endeavor. This is a lot of stuff to compile. How long were you actually working on the project? How long were you making your movie, Your Honest Liar?
Guys, I'm sorry, I lost you for a second there.
No problem. I was just wondering how much time was actually spent on compiling this stuff, interviewing, doing the video, because I saw the clip, and anybody that wants to can take a look at it. There's a fantastic, trailer at the Kickstarter website. But there's a lot of data. There's a lot of stories and interviews. There's a lot of clips that you guys seem to have. How long did it take to put this together? How long did it take to make the movie, I guess?
Well, I mean, we're still making the movie. We've been shooting since June of 2010.
Okay.
So it'll be 2 years. I'm sorry, 2011. So it'll be 2 years this come June where we've been filming. And that's in addition to, weeding through boxes and boxes of old newspapers and articles and letters and hundreds of hours of television and photographs. So we're still in the process of it. In fact, we are going in full-time into post-production in a week and hopes to complete the film by the end of the year. And a lot of people are saying, well, why is it taking so long? Why is it taking so long? But the fact of the matter is this is a rich story about a very, very interesting man who's led a very interesting, detailed, and in-depth life. And it takes a long time to make a story befitting of a man like him. And we fully intended to take the time and do it right. And this type of film being such that so many people are passionate about James Randi, and not just about him, but the mission that he promotes. that we want to do it right. We have, as you guys know, a very skeptical audience and a very critical audience, and it's important that we tell it correctly and get our facts straight and dig as deep as we can. So we have a lot of footage, but we're heading into editing in a week.
Well, I was thinking that if I will use the word blessing, it is both a blessing and a curse to have so much documentation on James Randi, whether it's his own letters, all the archival footage, and so on and so forth. It gives you great fodder to put together this story and make this movie. But it also means you spend 6 months sitting on the floor just going through stack after stack of paper and so on, I imagine.
Yeah, documentary filmmaking isn't as sexy as it seems a lot of times when you're weeding through old newspapers from the New Jersey Herald. But it's interesting, we have really learned a great deal about James Randi, and everyone thinks of these big things he does. And mind you, they should. The Carlos hoax and
sure.
Peter Popoff and all of this, his books. But Randi he just seems to be this guy who would stick up for the little man at any turn. We'd find letters where he would write to an airline because he saw somebody being improperly, handled, and he would write and report this. There was a period when he lived in Rumson, New Jersey, where he would take on this, if you will, kind of corrupt police station, a small town police department that was pulling over kids for no reason. And Randi would organize these rallies, and he would print T-shirts saying, Rumson Police Department is corrupt. So it's not just the big battles Randi fights. It's the little ones.
Yeah, and that's the stuff that I really look for in a good documentary. Of course, you're going to have to hit the big issues. You're going to have to hit the Alpha. You're going to have to hit the James Randi Educational Foundation. You're going to have to hit the big things. But the stuff that really makes it juicy, the stuff that makes it good, is the small things, the things that tie together, that show character, that show who the person really is. And that's, in my opinion, what a good documentary does.
Yeah, and that's where it's kind of difficult because we have 90 minutes, if you will,
to
tell 84 years of a man's very interesting life. I mean, you could make a film just about the Alpha Project.
Yeah,
there is enough material to do an hour and a half on the back and forth of that project as well as anything else.
Well, having to cram a good story or so into 90 minutes is something Josh and I are actually intimately familiar with, as this podcast is only 45 minutes long.
It is.
And by that we mean it's about an hour and a half, 2 hours. So we've tried since day one to shorten it up, but we tend to talk. So
yeah, I would actually think that the hardest part, now that compiling all the data, tedious and probably boring at some points, is probably the exciting and fun part. The cutting things out, what to get rid of just to fit that's got to be painful.
Well, let's just say that there'll probably be some wonderful DVD extras.
There you go.
Well, that's always nice. So let's step away from James Randi's story just for a second and talk about you and your partner Justin. So basically, you started this production company. Did Justin work with you on the first film that you mentioned?
No, he didn't. Justin he's a scientist by trade.
Okay.
He started out as a scientist. He has his PhD in, I don't know, something smarter than me. He's made a lot of science documentaries. He's produced for Peter Jennings, and he's done 2020, and he's done a lot of these. Like he did a TV documentary on alien abductions and the people who believe them. So he kind of brings to it this science. The science field. And he was the writer and editor of a great documentary called Being Elmo.
Yeah.
And it's so wonderful, and it's such a wonderful character study of a very interesting man, the man behind Elmo. And it has some similarities to James Randi in many ways. But we met at a film festival. And I was pitching this idea, and I had just started, and we basically had drinks together, and I was like, he got it. He totally got it. And I said, let's do it. literally within an hour of meeting this guy that I didn't know before. I said, yeah, let's do it. So, little did I know that, we'd be basically working together for the next, 4 years, deeply entrenched in a film, but it works. Him and I, we get along very well, and Randi is so wonderful to us, and him and his partner, Davey/Jose, have really opened their home to both of us.
Yeah, looking through the history between the two of you, you've actually got a pretty solid resume for documentary filmmaking. This sort of project, it's monumental, but looking back at this, I guess what have you done? There's, of course, Sons of Perdition, Beehive Spirits, Know the Customer. How long have you been making documentary films?
Well, I've been in the film business since I was 17. That's all I've ever done. And I'm 41 now, so it's been a bit. But I actually started out as a narrative filmmaker. And you can see on there, I've done a film called Take, and that starred Minnie Driver and then a somewhat unknown Jeremy Renner.
Oh, wow.
And it was, it's a great world, the narrative world. But I kind of found myself more in love with documentaries. I just love the truth telling. I love the people that are in the documentary world. There's not much money in the documentary world. I got to be honest, there isn't. So it kind of tends to keep the assholes out. And I like that. These are people that are dedicated to their craft and really care about the films that they're making. And it takes that to tell a story like James Randi. You have to love this and want to tell this side of the story with objectivity, of course. The last thing any audience member wants to see is a film that is telling them how they should think.
Right.
So, we plan to keep objective with this film, without question.
See, that's really the heart of it, because again, you can do a simple propaganda pitch, and just tell everyone how wonderful James Randi is, but again, that sort of defeats the whole idea behind warts and all, and that takes away the idea of the only thing that James Randi's really worked for, which is honesty and legitimacy. So it's a pretty good fit.
Yeah, I think something like that. The audience who's going to be familiar with James Randi and really interested in this film probably wouldn't stand for something that was just simply a propaganda piece and wasn't objective and was just completely biased. So I think when you tell James Randi's story, I'm assuming it's a story that you have to tell with warts and all, pretty much, because it's all about complete exposure and objectivity. So I did want to ask. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Tyler.
Oh, go ahead. No, I was just saying I don't. James Randi wouldn't like that.
Yeah,
right.
He would want to make sure. And there's also an element of the film of, a magic act in and of itself. Documentaries, the wizard behind the curtain in documentaries is such that I can put anything I want on that screen. I can make you believe. I can take a scene and change it completely until you believe what, even the person who's in it believes what I edited actually happened. and that there is that element to magic as well, as pulling the wool over somebody's eyes, but being honest about it. So, hopefully we'll be honest about our film, but also with a little bit of a playful tease in it.
Well, I again wanted to mention, everyone who's listening, they should definitely go to Kickstarter.com and, check out the campaign that you guys are running there. I did want to ask, what made you decide to try and go the Kickstarter route with funding this post-production that you guys have? Was this something you tried before, or is this kind of a new thing for you guys?
Well, I did it in smaller degrees with Sons of Perdition. When the film was finished, we raised a little bit of money to get the Polygamous Kids to New York for the Tribeca Film Festival. But making a doc is hard, and trying to raise money for it can be difficult, especially even a film like this. And, between you and me and everyone else, we've been offered the entire budget for this film, and we turned it down a number of times because we don't want somebody's hands meddling in it.
Sure.
And we knew that they would. So in order to remain independent and tell the story as we want and spend the time that we needed, we need to kind of raise the money independently. And this is but one way to do this, is Kickstarter. But it's more than just money. It really is. I mean, it's easy to see that we've been very successful thus far, but more importantly is to get these people who are interested in seeing the movie, who feel like they're a part of the film, and we want that. These people are a part of the filmmaking process. They're a team along with us, and we're beholden to these individuals who give their money and their time and their services to see this film made. And it ratchets up the pressure on us a little bit.
Sure.
but we're truly grateful for people and the comments and the money that they've given to see this film come to light.
Well, it certainly seems like the campaign you guys are running is going to make it, is going to be successful.
Not that people shouldn't go to Kickstarter and donate, because they definitely should.
Yeah, you should donate. You get a copy of the movie.
The thing about it is oh, I'm sorry, gents. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying you donate, you'll get a copy of the movie when the guys finish with the production. It's all a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's not, I mean, listen, we set a goal of $148,000. But between you and I, that's not how much money the film takes.
No.
So the more money we can raise beyond that mark, the better the film will be. The more archival we can buy, the more travel we can get to get these people who are in the film and need to be in the film. And besides that, there's actually some really kick-ass rewards for people who contribute. Really cool stuff.
Yeah, we're definitely noticing that. Again, everyone go to Kickstarter.com and check it out. So
there's actually quite a lot of things. I mean, for not that much money, you can get some pretty interesting things. Again, you can get, of course, a copy of the movie, but you could also get, the movie poster. You can get, oddly, you can get drink coasters. How'd you decide on drink coasters as one of the?
I was noticing
things. Because I wouldn't mind the drink coasters.
We wanted something unique. We wanted something that is unique and not something you can get anywhere.
Right.
And we thought those would be great. And plus, as whiskey drinkers ourselves, we need a place to set our whiskey down.
It's always very important.
My favorite award in there is there's a woman we know who's a big skeptic. We met her at TAM a couple of years ago, and she's an animator for The Simpsons. Her name is Anna Maltese, and she drew these very beautiful this very beautiful portrait of Randi in a very cartoonish manner. And we printed 150 of them in high-quality paper. And they're numbered and signed by her as well as signed by James Randi.
Oh, good deal.
And those are moving rather quickly.
Yeah, I would actually think, yeah.
Well, actually, you mentioned TAM. That's one thing we kind of didn't talk about with James Randi. In addition to the Alpha Project and Peter Popoff and Uri Geller and all the stuff that he did, James Randi eventually formed the James Randi Educational Foundation, as we were discussing. Started doing the Amazing meetings. That's TAM is the Amazing meeting. It's started by James Randi or the JREF.
Mm-hmm.
Have you been to TAM by chance?
We have unfortunately not made it out to TAM yet.
Our aim was this year, but I'm thinking that's falling through, so we're pretty upset about that.
TAM is great. TAM is, it's a 3 days full of skepticism and atheism and phenomenal speakers and great parties and good people and great events. And that's, we met a lot of amazing people there, and we got them on camera, from Bill Nye to Neil deGrasse Tyson and Richard Dawkins and, Richard Wiseman and Michael Shermer and all of these fantastic people that are just huge fans of James Randi, naturally.
Yeah, that was actually going to be one of my questions is, who'd you interview for the movie? Because you show a few people in here, and I know, let's see, we've got some footage from Alice Cooper. We've got some footage from what's his name? Mythbusters.
Oh, Adam Savage.
Adam Savage. Yeah. So I mean, who's really interesting in the interviews? I mean, who'd you have a good time with?
Well, I got to tell you, Adam Savage is, outside of just being an incredibly nice guy, was I sat down to interview him, and I thought, oh, this guy blows shit up. But he is so intelligent and so well reasoned and so thought out, and just, I mean, he kind of in a lot of ways took what Randi is doing and took Randi's mantle, as someone who busts myths, if you will.
Yeah.
And he was phenomenal, and he is fully in support of the film. In fact, he autographed 10 photos or 25 photos of him and Randi, which are on sale at Kickstarter, and he's been unbelievable. And another gentleman he's not in the trailer, this particular one, he'll be in the film, but Richard Wiseman was just stunningly funny and brilliant and witty, and then Dawkins was, interviewing Dawkins is like pitching to Alex Rodriguez, It's like you're throwing as hard as you can, and he's just crushing the ball, making you, just making you feel like you asked a good question when really you're completely beneath his intellect. And there's another gentleman who's not in the film as well, in the trailer, but Tim Minchin.
Oh, I love Minchin.
Yeah.
Minchin's in the film?
Great.
Oh, fantastic. I love Minchin.
Yeah, so he's in, I'm cutting a piece right now to release about what he said. So we've been very lucky, and we have a lot of other people lined up to complete the film. A lot of other people that have really been a part of James Randi's life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it certainly sounds like you have a long list of what I would consider to be the right people to be in this documentary, to be talking about James Randi's life.
No, and Penn and Teller. Of course, we have Penn and Teller, who are naturally huge fans of Randi and have a long history together. So.
Yeah, I actually discovered James Randi because of Penn and Teller talking about him. So, as I think a lot of people do.
Yeah. It's sad to know that Randi is as famous as he is in a lot of circles. He's not as much a household name as you would think, which is sad in many ways. But for us as filmmakers to go, in a way that's good. If we were making a film about, Robin Williams. Everybody knows Robin Williams. What surprises are there?
Yeah, there's no fun there. There's no juice for you to get.
Yeah, but to unleash a man to tell the world about somebody that, by and large, a lot of people don't know, that's even more interesting for us. So yes, a lot of people know him, but not enough. Well,
that's what makes it, I think, such a great topic for a documentary. And I was very excited as soon as we heard about this whole thing happening. Just very excited. Knew we were going to be on board in somehow. Definitely at least getting the movie from you guys. And that's why we wanted to have you on the show to help out as much as we can with promoting this and getting it out there. Because when you do finish the movie and release this upon the public, I think it's going to be good. As you say, Randi isn't as much of a household name as he should be, and hopefully something like this documentary will take steps to change that.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it'll bring him back out into the limelight like he was in the 60s and the 70s, especially.
But more than just James Randi, to bring some of the subjects that he preaches to, which is more important today than it was in the 70s.
Yeah, there's been a resurgence of cloudy thought.
Yeah, unfortunately so.
Yeah. So we're incredibly fortunate to be telling the story every day of my life. I'm just so lucky that I am able to tell such a rich story, and that so many people are helping us along the way to make this great film, including you guys. So we cannot wait to unleash this film and to have you guys come to one of the screenings at some festival somewhere.
Oh, we would certainly enjoy that.
We'll save you a seat. How's that?
Fantastic.
All right, good deal. I wanted to mention, kind of wrapping up here. You mentioned that Adam Savage is going to be in the finished product. Tim Minchin is going to be in the finished product, and those two people kind of stick out for me because when Josh and I went to the Reason rally, as I mentioned before, back in Washington back in March, I think we both kind of agreed that the two best speeches and performances were from Tim Minchin and from Adam Savage. His speaking at the Reason rally was incredible. And he was in a group of a lot of very incredible people, many of which are going to be in your film.
And he was, we were there, of course.
Oh, I was going to ask.
At the Reason rally. Yeah, and I think there's a brief clip in the trailer. But we were there, and, and I'm completely with you. Adam Savage's speech was just brilliant. And Tim Minchin singing "Fuck you, motherfucker," and doing Storm when he did Storm, and Sam's Mum, which is probably my favorite song of his. He hit it out of the park. So
he did,
and that's another guy who American audiences don't know, Tim Minchin, but he's huge in Australia. He's huge in the UK. And he's starting to gain a bit of a following here. If you haven't seen Californication, he's now he's playing a character in that series.
Yes, he is. Really? Well, that's just good that he's getting work as well. The more people who think with rational thoughts and skepticism that become famous in the populace, the better, is our opinion on that.
Agreed. Well, gentlemen, I appreciate you having me on. I really do. And I appreciate you caring about this film. And please keep up to speed. And we'll keep you guys up to date with how it's going. And, throughout the next year, before we finish the film, we'll occasionally release a little bit of a clip.
Oh, good.
If you sign up on our website, there's a password-protected we'll give you a password and we'll release little clips and we've done that in the last few days, some updates and a few little cute little scenes that we've released.
We get all the perks.
Oh yeah, nothing but the best.
Well, all right. We're certainly glad that you came on. Happy to like I said, do what we can to get this project to the finish line, and if only because Josh and I are really looking forward to seeing the film ourselves.
Yes, indeed.
Good. Well, we're looking forward to seeing it ourselves as well, Jen. So we'll keep you posted on what goes on, and I appreciate you guys. Keep fighting for Reason. We really appreciate it as well. It means a lot.
Fantastic. Thanks for coming on. Thanks a lot.
You bet, guys.
All
Good
right.
luck.
Bye-bye.
Farewell.
Bye-bye.
All right. That was fantastic. Now, anybody that didn't catch that from the beginning, we were talking about An Honest Liar, the Amazing Randi story. It's an upcoming biography of James Randi, the Amazing Randi, and it goes through a lot of things. And we touched on some of the more interesting things. Wanted to stay on topic with the movie itself, but if there's any number of things that anybody wants to go out there and check out, they can they can go to the Kickstarter site. Kickstarter, An Honest Liar is the easiest way. You can pull that up. You can watch the clip of the movie. We had Tyler Measom on there. We weren't able to get Justin Weinstein. Apparently he thought, these guys, I don't know.
Screw Reason.
That's he's not so big on Reason. He's a doctorate in genetics. He's like, I'm not going on some show to talk about some movie that I made. But
yes, I'm sure that's exactly how he talks.
I'm confident. I'm confident. That's exactly right. But yeah, An Honest Liar, the James Randi story. And anybody that hasn't gone to the Kickstarter site and taken a look, you really should. The teaser, the trailer is absolutely phenomenal. And again, there's a number of people in there. Your Adam Savages, your Penn Jillette, your Tim Minchin. You've got scientists. You've got magicians. You've got actors. It's just a cornucopia. It's absolutely fantastic. And I can't wait till they finish the cut and we can get a copy of it.
All right. Well, we wrapped up our interview with Tyler, and we're going to take a break. We'll be back in just a moment.
Do you have questions, comments, concerns, or random musings? Email us at reason@wnyatheist.org. Out of boredom, you should check us out on Twitter and follow @Reason Podcast. We appreciate it when folks retweet us because it makes us feel smart and important. Listen live Sundays at 8 p.m. Eastern on blogtalkradio.com. Call in, join the conversation at 424-243-9589. Can't listen live on Sundays because you're too busy praying to whatever gods you believe in? We are also on iTunes, Stitcher Radio, and you can download the show from wnyatheist.org/reason.php. Find us on Facebook at Reason Podcast, and go ahead and like us. We'll take your liking us as loving us, and that will sufficiently satisfy our egos. We know you're out there, we know you're listening, and we appreciate it more than these words can say.
All right, and we're back. This is Reason Podcast. It's a very special show about the Amazing Randi biography that's being produced, biography documentary, An Honest Liar, the James Randi story. And we finished up our interview here, but we do have some basic stuff to still cover, and I know that there's been some interesting things in the news that are not Randi related. So I wondered, Paul, if you've got anything there.
Yeah, we're kind of, flipping the structure of Reason's podcast normal show on its head here. But, we're doing what we can, and it was worth it to have Tyler on. It was really interesting to talk about his film, and we're really looking forward to it. But that being said, let's talk about some shit that's going on now.
Indeed.
So I have a news article from the LA Times, LATimes.com. Republicans, Democrats ready for broad immigration reform. Which is, I chose to talk about this article because immigration reform has been something that has been going on for years. I know I spent a large portion of my life living out in Arizona where immigration is not only a big deal, but also they're kind of assholes to anyone who isn't white, pretty much, with the whole IDing you thing and deporting just tons and tons of people. And truth be told, when I worked as a cook at a Middle Eastern restaurant, all of my coworkers were illegal immigrants. So I have many illegal friends. They're cool though. So now, finally, it looks like maybe something is going to happen here with immigration reform. Apparently, the Republicans and Democrats senators said Sunday that they were ready to announce the outline of a broad immigration reform bill that would include a path to earned legalization for immigrants living illegally in this country. That's been something that's been talked about in every political campaign for at least the past 10 years, and I'm sure even before that.
Well, yeah, the problem is that conservatives who hate people that are different have been fighting immigration the whole time. Yeah. And while I'm sure they'll get a boost in their numbers from the immigrants, I'm not sure that they're beating up the Mexicans for the last 2.5-3 decades pretty solidly is going to work in their favor.
Oh, I don't know about that. There's some interesting quotes in this article from Senator John McCain, who you may be familiar with. He ran for president and lost.
He's a maverick.
Who's that?
Yeah, he's a maverick, and he had that other one with the big glasses from Alaska.
Yeah, the Alaska chick. The Alaska chick and the maverick. Although I think she was a maverick as well.
So McCain was asked, apparently, why now? Why is a compromise now in the works? McCain pointed to the November elections, and he said, quote, "Look at the last election. We are losing dramatically the Hispanic vote, which we think should be ours." End quote. I think he's referring to the Republicans.
Yes. Not just McCain and his group or old white men. Oh, wait, that's the Republicans. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So, I mean, it seems like maybe immigration reform will actually happen at this point, and it will be something that the Obama administration and the Democrats in general may not have to fight the Republicans tooth and nail for months and months and months and months, like they do with absolutely everything else.
Well, what I've noticed that if you take a look at the immigrants they're talking about, and we know who they're talking about Mexicans, they're talking about Latin Americans.
They're not talking about Canadians?
No, they're not. They don't care about Canadians. They think there's not that many Canadians, and they look like us, so they don't really hate them.
That's true.
What I think that they're realizing is that if you actually look at the Mexicans, the immigrant population that comes in, they are actually built to be Republicans. They're devoutly Catholic. They're usually incredibly hardworking and bootstrap kind of people. I mean, they come from people that come from an impoverished nation. Those are the immigrants which actually do bring in, they bring in the workforce. Americans are pretty lazy. It seems to me that they've got a pretty good idea that the Latin Americans will be Republicans. And I think they're right, except for a couple of small facts. Again, I'm going to say the fact that they've been beating the Mexicans up for the last 30 years.
Yeah.
Criticizing them for everything, accusing them of having anchor babies.
Yes, anchor babies. That was a wonderful fear-mongering campaign.
Well, it evolved into terror babies. So terrorists come here and have babies, and they say, yeah, we're terrorists, but you can't kick us out. We've got terror babies.
Yeah.
At least I'm pretty sure that's what's supposed to be happening.
We're going to start terror farms and
terror incubators and terror hospitals and terror preschools. Chaos and disharmony.
And everyone knows what that leads to. Skynet.
Yep, Skynet. Exactly.
And bears.
wild rabid bears roaming the streets and machines from the future coming back to kill everyone.
Yep.
And that is something I'm deathly afraid of. But I don't think the Republicans are exactly right, and I think they're starting to realize that if they can actually convince the Mexicans that they don't hate them and haven't been trying to destroy their families and their way of life for the last 30 or 40 years, if they can convince them of that, I think they've got a strong minority base that they can use. And I say a good show. I think they're going to lose for a while, but I think they'll turn it around. I think Republicans will get some numbers out of the Latin American population eventually.
Well, I'm going to be optimistic and say that perhaps maybe the Republican Party has realized that with some estimates as high as 11 million illegal immigrants in this country, you kind of need to let that shit go, because they've been cooking your food for 30 years. They've been, doing construction. Our entire economy is kind of in part based on illegal immigration.
Yeah, you lost that battle 20 years ago. You keep fighting it, but you already lost. They're already here. They're already working. They're already an integral part of the economy and the social structure. You need to just embrace it, which I think is what the Republicans are trying to do at this point. At least John McCain seems to be.
All right. Well, that was Republicans, Democrats ready for broad immigration reform. And I think that it can't come soon enough.
All right. Moving on. David, you found anything interesting in the last week or so?
Well, sure. Apparently, I have an article here from CNN that's titled "Palin Speaks Out After Leaving Fox."
Palin. She any relation to that governor from Alaska that tried to run for president with McCain?
No.
She might be.
Okay. I thought she was a commentator on Fox. Does she have big glasses?
You're right.
And she's absolutely batshit crazy?
Yes.
Okay.
That's her. Yeah, that's right. Is that her?
Yes, you are correct.
All right.
So she decided to, instead of going rogue, she's now a rebel and is against the empire. So anyway, one day after Fox News confirmed that it and Sarah Palin had parted ways, she spoke out on why she decided to leave her gig as a paid contributor. She said that she wants to share her values more broadly rather than preach to the choir. The message of liberty and true hope must be understood by a larger audience. Now, I don't know about you guys.
Well, I don't know anything about liberty or true hope.
Oh, you don't either?
No.
After listening to Obama and, the Democrats and not watching
Socialists.
Fox News, clearly I don't know anything about, liberty and freedom and
well, I'm sure
hope for the future.
I'm sure that's the case.
Yes.
Yeah.
So Sarah Palin has baffled me since she existed, and before she was picked to be the vice presidential candidate, she didn't exist.
But she was from Alaska. I mean, I'm not even sure Alaska exists.
Right. So but it seems ever since that election, she doesn't have a job, but she has a bus, and she seems to drive around and say stuff not really related to anything. But
she was running for president during this last thing without running for president.
Yeah.
And I think she missed her window, because when you do that, you try and get your poll numbers up and then declare you're running. And I think that's where she went wrong, and that's why she's not president right now, is I think she forgot the last page of her devious plan. Last page is announce running for president. Run for president. And I think that's the part that she forgot, because she was going across the country with a bus.
Yeah.
Looked a lot like campaign bus to me.
It said "We the People." It had a picture of the Constitution on it. She's very constitutional.
Yep. And she seemed to be running for president pretty well, and then just petered out. And I guess now she's quit her job at Fox News to bring, what was it? Liberty and what was it, David? She was bringing liberty and justice or peace and harmony
and true hope.
True hope, not that Obama hope.
Oh my God, that is such a thinly veiled, just complete shit.
I'm not sure there's a veil there. I think somebody implied a veil there.
Yeah. Put the word "true" in front of it, because I'm not a secret Muslim. That's exactly.
I actually think maybe she is.
I think
she's a
Muslim?
very good secret Muslim.
From Canada, Alaska, I think they're the same place.
Yeah, well, see, Obama got busted for being a secret Muslim, not a good secret keeper. Whereas she so far has not been busted for it. I think a better secret Muslim.
Well, she certainly has her disguise down. So she quits her job as governor to ride around in a bus, not running for president.
Right.
Then she gets a job at Fox News.
Yes.
Which she quits ostensibly to probably go back to riding around the bus, not running for president.
Well, it's nice if you can get a super PAC that pays for you to just ride around the country and people go to your rallies and clap when you say stupid stuff.
Yeah.
That's kind of a nice gig. It really is.
I gotta say, she's really good at talking without actually saying anything.
I'm going to disagree with you.
I'm
going to say she
agree.
makes words, and sometimes they form these grammatical constructs that I think are sentences, and people do clap. I'll give you that. There's a lot of clapping and cheering, but I'm going to disagree with you at least on part of that. I'm going to say she does not say anything. That's true.
Yeah, that's essentially what I mean. She's good at not saying anything while saying words.
Yes, sir.
I don't even know if I could go that far. I mean,
Paul. I'm sorry.
If you go back and watch the vice presidential debates from 2008,
I don't think I actually.
Not the Saturday Night Live version, the real version.
I can't tell the difference.
Neither can I.
All right.
Moving on. I was taking a look at my most recent issue of Scientific American. And recently I heard a report on NPR on the same subject, which is why it caught my eye.
Reason Podcast. We steal other radio shows' idea.
Hold on. I have had a bone to pick with NPR for a long time because I come out on the show and say something, and a week later, NPR has a story on the same thing. NPR has been stealing from us
You think
for
so?
I know so, for 6 or 8 months. So you know what? Fuck that. Fuck that. If they talk about antioxidants and I talk about it next, I didn't steal your idea. And if I did, you owe me money for stealing mine.
Absolutely. And we'll know for certain if they ever come out with a show where they just argue about stupid shit for like 45 minutes.
Left, right, and center. It comes on in the evenings.
They stole that idea too.
Yes, they did.
Sons of bitches.
This one is The Myth of Antioxidants. And I know Paul doesn't take the vitamins. And I do take the vitamins, and we've actually had this argument. And this is one where I'm going to have to say that author Melinda Werner Moyer is going to take Paul's side. Because apparently there have been some studies that free radicals?
Yeah,
not so much.
Well, they exist.
Well, yeah, but they don't make you old. The free radical theory of aging does not hold. It was a great theory, but as all theories are, it was continuously tested. And it seems to be now being relegated down to an interesting theory, not necessarily an encompassing one.
Yeah, I mean, those are words. See?
I'm not sure they were.
Well, welcome, Sarah Palin.
Channeling Sarah Palin, yes, I am. So I think a lot of people make this mistake because they put these goddamn antioxidants in everything. You get Lipton green tea, Gatorade, everything.
Mm-hmm.
And they've been kind of shoved down the throats of the public for at least the past decade or so.
Yeah.
And the whole free radical thing was just to prevent aging. It wasn't, the antioxidants seemed to be marketed as a way to make you healthier, more vital, stronger, better.
Right, when the whole theory was that free radicals are the reason that we age. We would live forever if we didn't have free radicals.
The idea is that there's these parts of your chromosomes called telomeres. And every time a cell divides, a bit of it gets knocked off.
Right.
And when you run out of telomere, you dead.
Right, and that seems intuitive. That seems like it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and the electrons from the free radicals were ostensibly whacking off the telomeres, and that was causing premature aging.
Right, but in some recent studies, it's turned out that increases in certain free radicals in mice and worms correlates with longer lifespans. So free radicals, longer lifespans, not shorter, so they don't promote aging. They actually do the opposite.
So Lipton tea is killing you.
Lipton tea is killing you, yes. In the U.S., Mr. Alan Richardson, director of the Barshop Institute for Longevity and Aging Studies at the University of Texas Health Center in San Antonio, genetically engineered 18 different strains of mice, some of which produced more of a certain antioxidant enzyme than normal, and some which produced less. All right? So if the damage done by free radicals, their production, it should be the ones with more free radicals, the ones that produce more, will die faster. And the problem is that's actually not true. It was sort of luck of the draw, and there was a specific strain that they produced that they made that produced a lot of free radicals that actually lived the longest. It was the longest living of their radical mice.
Yeah, weren't these the something like naked rats who live for 40 years or something?
Yes.
Yeah.
Those are the ones, and they apparently the free radicals help them to live because they seem to be exactly the same, except for this weird tweak they created in them that causes them to produce more free radicals. So the free radical aging theory Yeah, it's kind of falling by the wayside. It's getting a little choppy.
And it's not holding a lot of water, that's for sure.
No, so basically the studies suggest that taking antioxidants in the form of vitamins or other supplements can actually do more harm than good in otherwise healthy individuals. Now, that doesn't mean you shouldn't take some basic vitamins. A certain amount of vitamin C is necessary, or you get scurvy?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. So there are certain levels of specific vitamins which we know for a fact. We know factually prevent specific illnesses. But that doesn't actually mean that your multivitamin is actually helping you.
Yeah.
Once you've passed the certain threshold, we don't know what the extra vitamins do. The antioxidants, we don't know what they actually do. It's a theory, and it has not been well supported. And they go through this in the article, that it's all been, I'll change it from theory to, it's all been hypothesis. Mm-hmm. And at this point, they're testing it, and the hypothesis is coming up flat. So all you folks out there that are making sure you take your antioxidants to make sure that you don't have free radicals, and I question you at this point to tell me what a free radical is.
Yeah.
Because they will tell you every day that you've got free radicals and you need antioxidants, but very few commercials, very few products, very few anything will actually explain to you how they're supposed to help. And again, as you said before, it's all to prevent aging. It has little or nothing to do with keeping you generally healthy. Mm-hmm. It's to prevent, aging. It's to aid in cellular reproduction. That's it.
And if you are planning on giving Josh a dissertation on what free radicals are, just remember, it's the one with one dot, not two dots. One electron, not two electrons. Mm-hmm. So there you go.
All right.
Now, I was going to, we're going to do a couple of news articles here. I was going to talk about old Mother Russia. That's where
old
I'm
Mother Russia
kind of moving to next. So this news article coming from the Star Online is entitled "Russia to Rework Bill on Offending Religion." And there's a couple of reasons why I chose this article. There's some interesting things going on in Russia. So apparently the Russian government asked Parliament on Sunday to amend a bill that would set jail terms for, quote, offending religious feeling, end quote.
Offending religious feeling.
Yeah, that's a little fluffy.
Yeah, and that's pretty wide open to interpretation. That's a judge's wet dream. That means whatever I want it to mean.
Yeah, we're fucked.
And that was one of the problems.
The Ruskies are.
One of the problems with this bill that was proposed, that the general population was like, what the fuck? Like, you can't do that. There's Russian Orthodox, and that's cool, but we also have Muslims and a whole bunch of other different religions.
Ooh, the Muslims have some rules against offending, offending religious
stuff. Oh, yeah. Feelings. Feeling is...
Yeah, I believe the Muslims have a lot of rules about that require cutting off your head. I'm not sure that this is something they should be codifying into law. Because there's decapitations that are a concern. No offense to our peaceful and friendly Muslim friends. Mm-hmm. I'm just talking to the people out there that the Muslims who would like to cut off body parts.
Right.
Just those. The rest of you folks, I'm cool with that. You believe what you like. That's your business. Don't try cutting off body parts.
That is always a good advice.
But yeah, that's my concern, is that sounds like, and you'll pardon me for possibly doing an argumentum ad. Wow.
Latin word.
Yeah, argument ad Latin word.
Yeah.
And going to the extreme, but that sounds like creating softcore Sharia law.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the problems with it. But there's another reason why I chose to talk about this news article.
Oh, really?
And that reason would be because I'm a fucking 4-year-old.
You are indeed.
Okay.
Say it. You want to.
I'm going to finish the sentence. Amend a bill that would set jail terms for, quote, offending religious feeling, end quote, a measure lawmakers proposed after last year's Pussy Riot protest at the Moscow Cathedral.
You wanted to say Pussy Riot.
They had a Pussy Riot.
There was a Pussy Riot, and you wanted to comment on it. You, in fact, are a 4-year-old.
I'm a pundit. I am just reporting the news.
Yep, and you chose the news about Pussy Riot because you are thinking right now, I bet, about a Pussy Riot. Wondering exactly how that would work. What would that be, perhaps? How does one have a Pussy Riot?
Yeah. There's many places we could go with that one. All right. So critics have said that it may harm Jews, it may harm Muslims, it may harm others outside the Russian Orthodox Church. Mm-hmm. And the big concern, kind of, is for President Vladimir Putin.
I think it's Putin.
Putin,
like Pootie.
And now, apparently, he's specifically anxious not to alienate the Muslim and Jewish vote because he's president, because they elected him, because he's not a dictator in any way, shape, or form.
No.
He's president.
He is. He's an elected president. He needs to be reelected. And while there may have been some accusations of electoral malfeasance, they have not been proven, certainly not by the police or by the investigators who are paid by Putin. They have not been shown to be true, so it looks to me like he's just a regular politician trying to maintain his stability in, a tumultuous time.
Sure. Because he was president, and then he wasn't president, and then he was president again.
Well, you can't be president more than, I believe, 2 terms consecutively. So he was president for 2 terms, just like the law says you can be. And then he was prime minister, and his buddy Bob, Bob, who does everything he says, he was president. And then when Bob, after 1 term, didn't want to be president anymore, Putin said, you know what? I'll run on the ticket. Sure. What the heck? I will give my life in service to my country again.
He is a giver.
He really is. He's all heart, that guy.
So legislators submitted the bill after 3 women from the Pussy Riot Punk Collective were convicted for a protest last February inside the Christ the Savior Cathedral, in which they urged the church to stop backing Putin with a pussy riot. That's how they urged the church.
I'm sorry, is the Eastern Orthodox, are they celibate?
To fail.
Because if they are, it might work.
I'm not entirely sure on that. So 2 members of Pussy Riot are serving 2-year prison sentences for, quote, hooliganism motivated by religious hatred.
I'm sorry.
Yep.
This wasn't related to British soccer. How can there be hooliganism?
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure. Apparently there is a crime in Russia called hooliganism. And it's ostensibly it's where you act like a hooligan and then you commit a crime.
Seems to be a bit of a catch-all.
Can you define hooligan?
Well, I know it's a round
miscreant.
It's a round ball, and it has these black patches that have 6 sides and white patches that have 5 sides, right?
And there's a lot of fighting. It's a very violent sport.
And they drink lots of pints.
So they were this ball inside an Eastern Orthodox church.
Yes, the Pussy Riot was this ball.
Having a pussy
How
riot.
dare they?
Yeah, they're just treading all over the sanctity of the Russian Orthodox Church.
I can see why they were offended. And I can see why there's now a law, or they're proposing a law, to prohibit this sort of riotous pussy behavior.
And I think they should extend the sentence. 2 years is too little.
For pussy crimes?
Yes.
And hooliganism?
Yes.
All right. Well, that's what's going on in Russia. As a friend of ours left the chat room, maybe because of that.
Well, probably. There's only so many times you can say pussy riot before people say, seriously, you got to stop saying that. I'm trying not to be offended, but you've kind of offended me. Moving on. I got another article from ABC News. It's by a Lee Dye. It's entitled, Why Congress is Paralyzed, a Scientific Explanation.
Is it pussy riots? Okay, I'm done.
No. Apparently there were a couple of studies done about power and the way that those in power, or those that seek power, see issues and how they see morality.
Okay.
Basically, the acquisition of power makes a person on the rise think they see with a greater moral clarity that, while this may be right or wrong, my perspective or my way of doing it is inherently morally right. I am right with a capital R, sort of like truth with a capital T. So they set out to see if having power makes one more committed to definite answers, yes or no, and less interested in maybe.
Okay.
Do they make things black and white? So some looks like 338 persons took part in 4 experiments. Some of the participants were made to feel powerful by recalling a time when they had power, they had authority, a time when you were in charge.
Okay.
Some were actually given some small power over the other participants. For the others, the question of power was never even raised. So some people, they tried to use a couple of psychological tricks to make them feel more powerful. And for the remainder of the folks, they did nothing. So that's your control group. In one experiment, the participants were asked to provide a yes or no or it depends answer to a series of questions involving ethical issues, such as, Is it okay to lie to coworkers if a job that is listed as open has already been promised to someone else?
Yes.
I don't believe we've given you the requisite introductory questionnaire. I don't believe you can answer that question. I'm sorry.
Okay, maybe.
Well done, sir. Should be. It depends. So the researchers were looking for the frequency that the answer "it depends" was given, because that suggests a more ambiguous attitude, a more moral ambiguity to the way that you look at this.
Yeah, not enough details.
Right. I need more details. Well, it's like, well, that seems like morally that should be sufficient details. But the folks with power, as the study shows, folks that were given the sense of being in power or recalling a time when they were in power, seem to be much more inclined, as the researchers suspected. They're much more inclined to say it depends. Moral absolutes become more subjective. My opinion is a moral absolute as opposed to there being an exterior moral absolute out there. So, yes, this is dirty business, or no, it's not. Yeah, that becomes irrelevant to, it depends on, what's it got to do with me? The two researchers said they believe a sense of personal power has made so many members of Congress convinced that they are right, even on issues with many shades of gray, that compromise is almost impossible. They believe that, again, I've said it before and I'll say it again, this sense of moral absolutism in the hands of the people that are running for office stops any form of compromise and just halts things just makes it stagnant, which is what we've seen the Republicans, the real ideologues recently, really start doing. I mean, that's really their tactic, and that's something that, the Democrats have done as well. But the Republicans have been really big on not compromising because they believe they are morally right. Yeah, and again, it's been evident over the past, 4 or 5 years or so that there's just the moral position that is taken. Everything just gums up and stops, and they can't accomplish anything. Well, you can't compromise.
Right. And without compromise, absolutely nothing gets done.
No, not in a legislative body. There is no room if there's no compromise. There's nothing. It's just, half the people yelling one thing, half the people yelling something else, and nothing ever happens.
And now, since the filibuster is a complete and total joke, there's no way to ever get around any of that.
No. Well, hopefully they're doing that. They're trying to do that filibuster legislation where they're trying to change it. Although still the new filibuster they're talking about, they're proposing, you still don't have to stand up there and talk the whole time.
Really?
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
That's messed up. If a real filibuster, you have to stand up there and hold the floor. That's the way it was historically up until like the 70s.
Yeah.
You have to stand there and talk. And when you stop talking, when you sit down, when you eat anything, if people bring you fried chicken, you can't eat the fried chicken.
Oh, I like fried chicken.
I know you do, which is why it would be tempting.
Yeah, it really would be.
You can't eat the fried chicken, you can't do anything, you can only talk, and you have to talk continuously, or else you lose the floor. You lose the floor, they can call a vote. That's the way a filibuster used to be, and that's the way I think it should be. You have enough members of Congress on your side, you can just tag team it. One guy should not be able to hold everything up just because he says he's threatening a filibuster.
Yeah, which is the way it is now. Basically, it's the amount of effort you have to put in to file a filibuster or threaten a filibuster is like just basically a piece of paper. Like, that's it. Like, I filibuster.
Right, and that stops all voting and halts everything, and that's absolutely preposterous.
It's bullshit.
Right, it's anti-democratic. You're stopping the democratic process from happening. There are representatives. Their job is to fucking deliberate, which this stops, and vote, which this stops. It prevents Congress, the Senate specifically, from functioning in its constitutional duty.
Yep.
It halts government, and that's unconstitutional and kind of shitty, if you ask me.
Plus, back in the heyday of the actual real filibuster, there's plenty of transcripts of really entertaining things that were said on the floor of Congress. Because again, you have to keep the floor. You can do so by reading the phone book.
Yep.
You can do so by reading recipes.
Yeah, cooking books, that's nice.
Yeah. You can, as long as you keep talking.
Well, I don't know. If you're really hungry, a cooking book is probably the worst thing.
Maybe you would read an instruction manual on how to assemble an electronics board.
Yeah. Or an instruction manual on how to not get hungry.
Yes, exactly. Although I gotta tell you, it's like when they tell you, don't think of a pink elephant.
Yeah, it's true.
So don't get hungry this way, and everybody in Congress will be totally hungry, and they'll be like, oh, we gotta get some food. Then they'll all leave, and you're just talking to an empty room.
Yep.
Well, then no one will be there to know that you stopped talking.
Yeah, I think they have like people that are paid to be there, because our Congress, not paid to be there, everyone. Just so you know, not paid to be there. They barely have to show up to their jobs. And they're still doing stuff where they are doing even more. So I'm offended, and I know what Congress has a 9% approval rating, and everybody's beating up on Congress, but this just seems disgusting, and the fact that they can't pull it off is bizarre and absurd and un-American to me.
Well, it certainly seems to be the case. All right. Well, we're gonna move on here. We actually got some viewer questions. We got some emails for a section we like to call "We Probably Don't Know What the Hell We Are Talking About," which is certainly the case if you've listened to the show or know us in any way, shape, or form. Mm-hmm. But we have a couple of questions, and we could always use a couple more. So if you have anything you want to ask, email us at reason@wnyatheist.org.
So, and for the most part, if I can just say, most of the questions we get are people asking questions that are actually answered in the show. I want something interesting, something amusing, something that really, something that pops. So if something gets your attention during the show, sure, send us an email, send us a question. But, try and listen to the whole show, get the whole answer first, and see if we covered it. Because I know Paul just breezed through Mercury, and there's probably a million questions on Mercury out there that nobody knows the answer to, because Paul was not fulfilling, and Mercury's a stupid planet.
Yes. And, entertaining questions are always good.
Oh, entertaining the better, yes.
Like, for instance, you could ask Josh, have you ever gotten in a fist fight with a mountain lion? And
the answer might surprise you.
Yeah, you'd be surprised. So, the question I'm going to address is one about the show, actually. How do you guys pick the arguments, was an email we received. Now, it's a careful process involving a bucket and a cat, mm-hmm. and fire, lots of fire.
Yes.
But mostly what happens is, around Sunday afternoon, Josh and I go, one to the other, either way, we'll go, we need to pick a topic for the argument. And then we'll both go, shit.
It's surprisingly difficult, because keep in mind, the argument is supposed to be an exercise in rhetoric. So an easy answer is actually not a good argument.
No.
We work really hard at finding things that can be argued from both sides, or at least can be creatively argued from both sides. I know we did the flat Earth. We did what are the ones we did from Conservapedia?
Oh yeah.
There were a couple of fun ones from Conservapedia. Should Conservapedia be shut down on Sundays?
Oh, are cats just stupid dogs?
Yes, are cats just stupid dogs? Things like that. These are, they leave themselves open to actual arguing for rhetoric, because if it's a simple issue of,
2 plus 2 equals 4. I mean,
how many legs do cats have? Yeah. Well, I guess I could argue that cats had 2 legs.
I say 5.
It could be done, but it wouldn't be the most entertaining. And it would be, I know some folks out there know we drift pretty quickly off into absurdity, but some of the arguments do require it. And, so we try to find something with juice, something with meat on both sides.
Yeah, and I suppose the succinct answer as to how we pick the arguments is pretty much the same way we do everything else. Research, the electronic box that has the pictures from the tubes that are the internet. It's always a useful resource. We do a lot of research for the show, both in trying to come up with an argument, researching the main topic of the show, looking for primary source journal articles, and reading through the news much more than I'd actually want to if I weren't doing this every Sunday.
Well, I'll be honest with you, I've always been a news junkie, but now I'm reading the news much more, like worldwide news, much more than I ever have before, and it's really depressing.
like pussy riots in Russia.
Right, let's see that right there.
Why don't we here?
Exactly. Yes.
Damn commies. Stealing our riots.
Stealing our pussy riots. Former commies.
Yes, former commies, now
capitalists,
sure.
pseudo, softcore fascists, something along those lines. I actually got a question that I thought was pretty interesting, because it's one of the ones that I knew but actually didn't have all of the information for in the front of my brain. The question was something along the lines of, did George Washington really grow marijuana? Now, we all know that the Founding Fathers grew hemp. Hemp was very popular.
And very useful.
Exactly. And, a lot of the stoners out there that want to legalize marijuana use the argument that hemp is actually better than, cotton for any number of things, which it is.
It's good for rope because it doesn't dry rot. Mm-hmm. Things like that.
It's very handy. So we know that they grew hemp. That's really not even in question. So I did a little bit of research on the old cannabis there, our old friend.
Marijuana.
Marijuana, yes. Sweet Mary. And I took a look through a quick history, so bear with me before I get to good old Georgie Porgy. We know that cannabis was first cultivated around 4000 BC in China, so it's got a very old history. The original drafts of the Declaration of Independence were on the hemp paper, so we know it was cultivated and used for hemp. Queen Victoria herself used it to relieve her menstrual pain, and from about 1842 to 1900, nearly half of all medicines sold in the United States contained marijuana.
Yeah, and the other half contained alcohol.
Yes. Now, cannabis was introduced to the New World by the Spaniards just before 1545, because that's when we have the first documentation of its widespread use. But on to George Washington. George Washington was growing cannabis at Mount Vernon, and the reason we know it's cannabis and not just hemp are from just a couple of entries in his diary.
I was really hungry.
Dude, I was really hungry. Wish I had some munchies. Shit, this couch is good. I'm going to cuddle up for a while. Mouth is dry. So that was basically, so we were pretty confident that, May 12th and 13th in 1765, George Washington wrote in his diary, sowed hemp at Muddy Hole by Swamp. And then on August 7th, 1765, he wrote, began to separate the male from the female hemp at Doe rather too late. And this is where we can actually draw some information. Mm-hmm. See, the second entry indicates that he was cultivating marijuana for medicinal properties, because separating the female from the male plants before they pollinate is done to increase the drug's potency. And so it is possible that he wanted to remove one sex because he felt that that the other produced a better quality of fiber. Sure, that's fine. But he actually writes in there, rather too late, which is the thing that kind of gives it away. It indicates that he wanted to do it before the females were fertilized, something that makes absolutely no difference if he's growing it for the fiber, but a considerable difference if he's growing it for use for the pot-headedness.
For medicinal purposes.
Medicinal purposes, for his glaucoma.
Yes, for George Washington's glaucoma.
So we know that it was well used. It was incredibly popular as a medicinal thing. We know that the Founding Fathers were stoned half the time. Jefferson also had the same thing. We know this for a fact. In fact, the only reason that we... and here's where I get paranoid on my conspiracy theories.
Oh, good. The
only reason, as far as I can tell, that it is still illegal is a massive media campaign by drug companies and alcohol companies. That's what happened after Prohibition was ended. They ended the Prohibition on alcohol, and the alcohol companies, along with the Dole Corporation, who grew, by the way, cotton, had a huge media campaign against the re-legalization, because it was legal before Prohibition, the re-legalization of marijuana or hemp. And that's just been a media campaign that we've been living off of for like the last 70 or 80 years.
Well, have you seen Reefer Madness?
It's incredibly intimidating.
It's really scary.
Although I will say, now, I'm no rapist. But if I were, when I was stoned, I would not be all that interested. It takes a lot of the out of what you're doing.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, yeah, I'd really like to have... Man... Dude, you got a remote. I mean, seriously, that's the way it went for me when I was on the marijuana. Part of the reason I'm not a big marijuana fan.
That's not how they portray it in Reefer Madness.
Exactly. It turns you into a crazed, rabid beast that assaults women and
pretty much like a werewolf.
Yes, like a werewolf. Marijuana makes you into a werewolf. And that's the media campaign we've been living off for the last 80 years. And if you want to go back to the principles of our founding fathers, toking was one of them.
Yep.
So I think we need to find something by James Madison, something by Thomas Jefferson to go along with our George Washington, who was the richest man in the colonies when he was elected president. Get something by all three of them, put it together, send it to Congress, and I think the Republicans, the ones that believe we need to go back to the old school America, will be on board with the legalization of the marijuana.
We're going to legalize marijuana. They're going to grant amnesty to illegal immigrants.
Like what they did with this country when we were founded, amnesty to the illegal immigrants.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're gonna move on to You're Wrong, and let me tell you why.
Indeed.
Now, as we discussed earlier about how we pick the arguments, so on and so forth, we have an interesting topic this week, and I think it is again, as all the arguments are, it's an important question. It's very, very pertinent to our times. And it's something that I think we all should consider and weigh very heavily before choosing whichever side a random coin gives you.
Yes.
Okay, so the argument this week is science is a threat to humanity.
Science is a threat to humanity. So I guess we'll go with heads being the affirmative, that science is in fact a threat to humanity.
All right.
And tails being the negative. All right. Now, before I flip here, Paul, would you like the coin?
I will take the coin.
You will take the coin. We've got David here watching with his keen eagle eyes.
He
just
really
to make sure.
is very, very up on you, making sure that you do not in any way, shape, or form cheat.
Because Paul seems to believe that he gets the bad side of the coin from time to time and makes mockery of me. So we've got David here as an impartial third party who I've only given $20 to. So as of right now,
thank you, by the way.
So here we go. That just landed in my crotch. So let's just.
There.
I'm not wearing pants.
This is our most adult show ever.
Paul gets the coin. Yes.
Oh, well.
I'm saying you get the coin, right?
Yes.
And it's the affirmative. It is a threat to humanity.
Yes, and clearly it is a threat to humanity. Now, let's say, in order to discern exactly why science is a threat to humanity,
please.
we need to do a careful examination of basically what the job of humanity is, what the purpose of our existence is. And we all know that the purpose of our existence is to recreate and pass on our genetic lineage.
Sure,
we learn that from science. So the thing that science has done over the years, it has increased lifespans. It has taken steps to cure or eliminate the symptomology, at least, of many disease states, and it has generally made the population healthier and lived longer. Now, why does that destroy humanity? Now, clearly, it does destroy humanity if humanity's goal is to follow a course of evolution and increase its genome's properties and therefore make basically a better and better animal. Science is simply holding us back from doing that while at the same time allowing us to live lifespans that are much further beyond where we're actually capable of reproduction. And those people who cannot reproduce, who cannot pass on their genetic lineage, are doing nothing but using up the resources and everything we have available to us, therefore making a weakened state of humanity less likely to be able to succeed in the long term.
Wow, no nanites, no nuclear bombs. Wow, that's absolutely fantastic. That's not where I expected. I'm very, very pleased with that argument. So you hate nannies?
Yeah.
Yeah, Paul hates nannies. Anyone who's beyond reproductive age that is taking care of children and therefore allowing their parents to continue to reproduce. I'm assuming that everyone with a nanny fucks like rabbits.
I would fight a nanny.
Exactly. Stopping them from reproducing further is a waste and a drain, and you would like to destroy it. I would say no, sir. What science has done. What science has done specifically in reference to your argument, which I didn't expect, and I'm stalling a tiny bit for time so that I can come up with something reasonable that doesn't make me sound like a moron.
I object. I object to you not sounding like a moron.
What science has done is science has promoted sexual aids. There are all sorts of drugs, your erectile dysfunction drugs for people that, while they can't, necessarily get it up, doesn't mean they don't have sperm to sell. We've got other drugs which make people more beautiful. You've got steroids, which make people more of a perfected measure of some idealistic ideal that we can all lean on and aim for. So we've got steroids and Viagra. We've got ecstasy. All these things coming from your specialization, Paul, of chemistry. Chemistry alone has produced I don't know how many children. Now, add to that in vitro fertilization, add to that any number of other things. We've made humanity grow by leaps and bounds by preventing death and allowing people, because keep in mind, people used to die most often in childhood illnesses before they were able to reproduce. Now we've eliminated the majority of those in the Western world. We need to expand them to the poorer nations. Now, additionally, you made an argument that it's evolutionarily advantageous for us to breed and grow the genome. And I have to stop you there. We said for humanity, not for what humanity may evolve into. So if we stop evolution in its tracks, we're actually making humanity extend its span on the planet, therefore being good for humanity, allowing us to evolve by limiting our capacity to deal with the world would actually weaken the chances of humanity itself continuing, and we might go the way of Cro-Magnon man. We might disappear off the face of the earth, therefore eliminating humanity. And I would say that is a dastardly and a frightening notion that you're promoting. It's scary.
That is a completely fallacious argument. You know as well as I do that humanity is going to remain humanity until such time a human gives birth to a transitional fossil.
I'm pretty sure that has already happened. I'm pretty sure that has already. Have you not seen the NFL?
Okay, but
transitional fossils all over the place.
Which means that all of your arguments about sustaining life, extending life, getting children through
sexual reproduction,
childhood,
up to puberty, yes, indeed.
Those all work just fine in the short term, but meanwhile, you can't ignore the fact, you can't ignore the argument that we are doing nothing except polluting the genetic lineage by refusing to allow natural selection to take its course and
eliminate humanity from the planet. Yes, I am against that.
Eliminate the problems with humanity. If we stopped giving glasses to blind people, there'd be no more blind people.
And there'd be less people because they'd be driving into buildings, and that would be horrible. They'd be killing people all over the place, lowering the sheer number of humans who are dominating the globe now and promoting my way of life and the way that humanity prospers and has grown strong and powerful to dominate the globe. You're against that, sir, and I am shocked by this.
And that would do nothing. Your blind people crashing into people on the street would do nothing except for allow a selection to build up resistance to being hit by cars. We all know that's how evolution works.
Right, but are humans resistant to being hit by cars now?
Not as much as they could be.
Right, if you do it enough, they'll become something else, like a concrete post. And if human beings were to evolve into concrete posts, I would say that any definition of human being would no longer apply. And I say again, you are promoting the extinction of human beings by evolutionary processes to move us into a different form, which is not a Homo sapien.
I think it's a sad mischaracterization to believe that the way evolution works is that you go from a human to being a concrete post. I think this might be slightly lacking in an understanding of the evolutionary process, which...
Yes, hitting people with cars will allow people to evolve to being hit better with cars. I don't believe that's what happened. I simply took your argument to its extreme. A concrete posts are resistant to being hit by cars, unless they're going really fast, of course, but, nobody can predict that sort of thing. But you hit a concrete post with 30 miles an hour, that post is still there.
Yes.
So that's what you're promoting human beings would turn into if you were to allow blind people to drive. And I say, no, sir, that no longer qualifies as a Homo sapien.
Well, I disagree. We all know that if a concrete post could read the weather, then we'd call it a human being. That's how that works, too.
How do you know they can't?
We
know they can't talk, and we know they can't communicate,
yet.
But I think maybe they can read the weather, and you, sir, are making assumptions that are not in evidence.
I meant read the weather aloud, and clearly that was my meaning, which you mischaracterize and misrepresent like you always do to put forth these bullshit arguments that have absolutely no weight or bearing when clearly science is a threat to humanity. Yes.
Well, that was fairly compelling, Paul.
Well, I have
to say, I am somewhat convinced that science may be a threat to humanity, but only in so much as humanity is nothing more than concrete posts in the making.
Yes.
If humanity is more than a transition between chimps and concrete posts, anything more than that, then you, sir, are wrong, and your argument sort of crumbles under the weight of its own clearlies. Anybody knows that person that says clearly too many times? That person's bullshitting you. And I say, argument ad clearly.
Well, clearly I'm being clear about the position that we are going to turn into concrete posts that can talk, and those will be human beings.
I don't think that was clear, I'm sorry.
Human being concrete posts that can talk. That's
and
where
read
evolution...
read
the weather. That's
out
where
loud.
Evolution is taking us, and, that's just... You can't scream back the ocean. We all know we're going to concrete posts and pillars, and it's all going to happen. And you, sir, with your sciencey science and your testing and your tubes and colored liquids, are trying to change all that.
I do have to stop and say, though, I'm pretty sure that science brought us cars. So that really makes your argument? Science promotes the evolution which destroys science which it promotes. And I've got to say, I think that's a clumsy and klutzy argument.
We can't live in the past. We need to move forward. You're living in the past. Ooh, science made cars, and that's my fault. Now I'm concrete. Bullshit, sir.
All right. So we'd like to know what you think. I'm sorry.
Email us at reason@wnyatheist.org.
So, David,
I have a question for you.
Yes, sir.
Why aren't deer concrete posts now?
Oh, they are. Those concrete posts on the highway, those are deer that have evolved into concrete posts.
Those are the better deer.
Right, those are the ones that have lasted.
Have you ever met a deer? They're incredibly stupid animals, the ones that you think of as deer. Those are the stupid ones who stay in the woods and stare at the headlights and just run into the car.
But you'll notice they have a habit of not moving and staring at the headlights of a car when a car comes at them.
Like a concrete post.
Exactly my point. Exactly my point. I think that my point is clear. So I'm solid with this argument. I think the audience knows which side to come down on.
But then that means that he wins.
I win.
No, I don't believe that I said anything about humans. I win. I lose. Wait, what's happening? Hold on. What's going on?
All right. Well, thanks for staying with us for this very special episode of Reason Podcast. We're very happy to have Tyler Measom on of Flim Films, the name of his production company there. And he's got the Kickstarter campaign. You should check it out, kickstarter.com, for the documentary that they are in the process of making, and sounds like an absolutely wonderful film.
It really does. Watch it just for the clips. I'm saying. I'm sure the story's fantastic, but the clips sound absolutely just beautiful.
And that is James Randi, An Honest Liar. Mm-hmm. So check that out at the Kickstarter.com site. Also, I'll make another plea again. Anyone, if you listen to the show and enjoy it, or think that either my or Josh's argument was clearly compelling, go ahead and go to WNYAtheist.org. There's a donate button. Send us $1 or $2 if you can, and that would be much appreciated.
Yes, indeed.
All right, so next week we'll be back to our regular format. We'll be discussing science and history and probably making fun of David. So
I would think yes.
Until then, farewell.
For Kenji.